Hey there, this is me, Mohammed Vamik, and we are going to continue our class for grade 12 computer sciences. In the last class, so far, we have covered user-defined data types, and we have covered the first category of that is composite data types, right? I discussed along with all of you that if we have a composite user-defined data types, first of all, why there is a need for user-defined data types, we have discussed this. Apart from that, the second area regarding the non-composite data types that I have is enumerated data type and pointer data type. We have discussed this in the last class. In today's class, we are going to discuss regarding composite data types that is records, sets, and classes and objects. So just give me a moment. So far, I have discussed with all of you regarding the data types. We have computed this initially in our classes, why there is a need for them, then objects, attributes, scenarios, examples. Then I discussed with you non-composite data types, right? One example of that was an enumerated one. The second one was a pointer. Now I'm going to start my today's class with the composite user defined data types. So when I am referring to this composite user defined data type, so basically, you know that these basic data types are helpful, but you also know at the same time that they are not enough. And this is the reason that we need to create our own data type, right? While these basic data types are helpful, sometimes they are not enough. What if we need to create something more specific, right? Like, for example, maybe a record of a student, or for example, a set of unique items or data. So that's where user defined data comes in. We have discussed this quite in detail into the starting areas, that why there is a need of a user defined data type, right? uh, but just I'm just trying to give you a recap of all of the things. So when it is a user defined data types, I have three areas right here. First of all, I have a record data type, then I have the set data type, and then I have objects and classes. These three are the areas that we are going to discuss in today's class. So even before getting into that what is I composite user defined data type. First of all, I want you to go through this. Imagine you are planning a road trip, and for the trip, you will need various things like a map, a playlist, or a bunch of stacks. Now, individually, each of these items serves a specific purpose, but when they are combined together, they help you to have a successful trip. So, for example, if you are going on a trip, maybe a school trip or a trip with a family, so what basically happens is that you collect all of your items at one place. Now, your aim is that you want to go onto that trip, but along with this aim, you prepare along with several preparations, right? Like, for example, you say that I should must be having a map so that I can navigate myself. I should must be having a playlist of songs that I can either play it, and I should must be having snacks. So that basically these three are some of the examples that combines together for making a successful trip. So when you have a composite user defined data types, that means that you are referring to many items, but when all of them are collected together at a single place, that makes that basically accomplish your mission, or maybe you can say that you reaches your objective, or maybe you can say that you reaches your aim, right? Like, for example, You said that you wanted to go on a trip. Now, what are the ingredients and what are the items that makes it a successful trip? These are the things that you should be must having. So you had one objective, and when you want to complete that, these were the areas that were involved. So when it comes to a composite user defined data types, that means I have different elements and their purpose is also different, but they are combined together into one place to make it really happen. So, for the definition part, you can go along with this that composite data types. Composite data types basically allow programmers to create their own data structures that are more suited to their specific need. For example, you have a specific need and you want to create your own data type. So, how you are going to do that? You are going to do that with the help of a composite data type. So with the help of a composite user-defined data type, it has a definition with reference to at least one other type. You should be remembering right here. Then earlier into our classes, I was discussing you one example of a data type, and that data type stated that there is basically a data type that is not reference to anyone, that is a non-composite one, right? But now when I'm referring to a composite data type, a composite data type is the one that has a reference to at least one of the data type. That means it is connected together. That means it has reference. For example, when I was referring to a successful trip, I was having three main areas. And now those three main areas were actually connected together, and basically when connected together, they were on a single objective that was a successful trip. So if I summarize all of this up, a composite user-defined data type has a definition with reference to at least one other data type. Or you can say that a composite data type is a type of data structure that is made up of two or more simpler data types, or when they are combined together, they make your data types. This is it for a composite data type. I hope it's clear to you. If you have any queries, you can definitely ask to me. So if you have composite data types, you have three types of areas. The first area is record. The second area is sets data type. The third area is objects and classes. So I hope that till now, the basic idea of composite data types are clear. Now, right here, it says that can you give an example of when you might need to create your own program data? So basically, this is an area of a brainstorming, and I want you to think on this and tell me your answers in the comment box. So for this one, I am actually allocating you 3 minutes, and I want you all to think for this and then get back to me, or either if you can post your ideas or yours into the comment box so that I can go into that, and your time starts now. Okay, so I hope that all of you have your answers with you, and you are completely sure with the areas that where there is basically a need where you want to create your own data types. So along with that, I'm going to start discussing with all of you the first data type we have in our syllabus, that is basically records. So basically, when I'm referring to a record data type, this record data type means that a record of someone, and that record could basically depend on some number of fields or some number of categories. For example, if I have a list of students, a list of 1,000 students into my school, and at the same time, I want a record of a single student out of my school that is in grade 6. So perhaps what is going to happen is that that grade 6 student is going to be extracted from my record, and I'm going to have its complete record. That means that what is its name, its age, its full name, its location, its progress. So basically, when you have a record, you mean that you have a bunch of information. So a record data type is the most useful and therefore most widely used. It basically allows the programmer to collect together values with a different data types when these are formed as a coherent whole. That means that when you have a number of different values, and when you are combining them into one area, there it becomes a record. Or you can say that a record is basically a collection of fields. And I know that it is a collection of fields, but at the same time, it has its own data type. We are going to take this one of the example. So what is a record data type? A record data type is the one that contains a fixed number of components which may be having different data types. So for example, let me show you right here. You can see that this is an example of your record data type. And what you can see that they have started to, like, this is the syntax. This is the way how you are going to declare that. So first of all, you are going to write the word type, then you are going to write the name of your record, that is going to be T record. Now in this area you can see that I have declared the name as strings, I have declared the gender as character, I have declared the date of birth as date, I have declared again regular as the boolean, and I have declared phone as an integer. That basically means that all of these are data types and they are used in a record data type. What I mean to say right here is that you can see that each of them, right? Each of them is different, but when they are combined together, then they basically forms a record. So that means that all of these areas are different, but when combined together, they are combined as a one record. So, and if you want to end it, you have to write this and type. So, as an example, a record could be used for program using employee data. Pseudocode for defining this type could be like, right, like for example, type T employer record, then you can work it right, like declare employee's first name as in a string. You can declare the employee's family name as in a string, and declare the date of employed as a date, and declare the salary as currency and type. This is basically when it comes all together into a combined form, it forms a record. So, for example, here is one another example that states that a particular use of a record for the implementation of the data structures. Data structures basically means composite or non-composite data types, right? Like records, like we are discussing it, where one or possibly two of the variables are defined as pointer variables. So, this is a worked example which I want all of you to focus here. So, you can basically see that a car manufacturer and seller wants to store the details about the cars. These details can be stored in a record structure. So, in a record structure, how you are going to do that? You're going to type the car record and then you are going to add your value. So, right here, this is the method you are going to use. These are the keywords that you are going to use, and then again, your variables are right here. So, these are basically the syntax of that, and your variables are right here, right? Like you can name it a vehicle ID, registration, date of registration, engine size, purchase size, like right, like declaring a car record. and then you have your data type. So all of this is basically to be defined as a record, and each one of that you can see is a different data type. However, to declare a variable of the type you want to write, you can also use this area, right? Like for example, declare this car as car record. So for example, if you want to have another variable, first of all, you need to understand that what is variable. So variables are basically to be known as value containers that contains your value or something. So whenever you are taking a variable, that means you are taking a value and you want to declare it to someone. Like for example, you have taken it a variable like car record, and you want a car record to be declared, to declare a variable of the type you want to write. So you can write here the type, and then you can type your car record. So this is how you work with it. So that note that we can declare array of records. If you want to store the details of 100 cars, we can also declare the array, right? Like for example, declare car. That means that now the cars consisting of 1 till 100, all of the cars are from this area. So I'm explaining it back again, just in case if anyone of you have any queries. So in this area, first of all, they are stating that if you want to declare a variable of the type you want to write, so simply you are going to write declare, then you are going to write the type, and you are going to write the name of the data type of the record that you have declared right here. So car record comes here and your variable comes here. This means that this variable is a part of this record. Other than that, if you have more number of values, or if you want to store, right, like details of 100 cars, you can declare an array of type car record. So for example, declare car, that means 1 out of 100 cars are listed right here of your call. They are into this record that is of car record. So moving on with the further examples right here, if you wish to just making your point even more clear, if you want to have a variable, it can be declared as a following. This is another example. If you want to declare a variable like name of the variable is new student, I mean you have declared this as t record. Right here we were I was giving you an example of this t record. This is right here. So that means that now if I wish to have a variable of this record, so I'm going to write like this, declare new student into the t record. However, if you want to access the individual items, you can do that by using a dot notation. So not to do, how can you do that? You like write like for example new student and name. So in this example, all of the students whose names are Muhammad, new student name whose name is Muhammad is going to become right into it. So what can be the particular uses of a record? The particular uses of a record is for the implementation of data structure, where one or possibly two of the variables are basically pointer variables. Other than that, right here is one of a scenario which I wish all of you to complete that. So present a scenario and ask all of you to define a field for record. Now, I want you to give me basically an example of a record, and into that record, what you need to do is that you need to define the fields, right? Like, for example, creating a record for a book in the library. So, how are you going to do that? You are going to think of your own example. You can write type the name of your area, then you are going to declare it on your own, and then you are going to end type. So, for this task, I'm giving you right here around 5 minutes for this task. So all of you has to complete it and share along with me in the comment box. So your time starts now. I'm keeping it the syntax right here, so you can even do it on your own and then submit back to me so I can check if you're doing it. So I hope that composite data types and the first category is clear to you. You may go ahead along with this working procedure. Okay, so I hope you guys are done with your answers. You can submit it to me into the activity area. Now I can continue with the next area, that is basically sets data type. So sets data type is one of the another example that I have into composite data types. And sets are basically to be known as a collection of unique items. So when you have a collection of unique items and you combine all of them into a single area, this is to be known as an sets. So I hope that sets you have also studied back into your primary or secondary grades into your mathematics as well. That sets is basically a data type that allows a program to create sets and apply mathematical operations based on that theory, right? Like for example, I have union. If you remember A union B, that means that all of I mean union basically means that if both of them are same, like A union B, difference, intersection, include an element in the set, excluding, checking whether. So basically, mathematical notations are not right here the part of the syllabus, but it is the part of explaining you the set data types. So sets are used when you want to create a set of some items. Sets means that you have different items into one area and you want to apply mathematical notations onto that. And those mathematical notations can be like a union, difference, intersection. That is for your maths area. But we're not going into that, go into that. A set is basically an ordered collection of items. Unordered collection of items means that yet it is not into any order. It's completely scattered. And here, your every element is unique. That means you have right here no duplicates. And it should not be changed as well. So we can even add and remove items from a set. So the numbers of elements in a set data type can vary, but there should be no nulls are allowed. No nulls means that there should not be a set which has no objects. This is a rule. If you have a set, you must be having those data items. For example, if you can see right here, this is an example of a set data type. Imagine a buffet where you can take only one of each item. So whenever we usually go into parties or into weddings or into any restaurant or something, you have seen that for preparing your food, right? What you usually do is that you take food from every single of the category. For example, if it's a desserts, for example, if it's sweets, for example, if it is any other category. So what you do is that you basically take each and every item into your plate and you basically make a set of that. So I'm explaining you set in terms of when you do it in real life, you go into weddings and you prepare your food. Maybe you have some delicious items, then you have desserts. So when you prepare it all together into a plate, so this is a set. That means you have your items. So ask students to list items for a set, ensuring no duplicate. So for example, if I ask you that what are your favorite fruits, so what are you going to reply to me? You're going to say that, sir, I either like mangoes, I either like apple, I either like pineapple. This is basically like you are creating a set, a list of your favorite items. So how you have to write the set data type. You can assume if you want to write that in pseudocode, so you can do it right. Like this is basically the syntax of how you have to write it. For example, your type and for example, your the name of your identifier and then the name of your data type, base type. So for implementing this syntax, you are going to use it like this. For example, declare the name of the identifier along with that all the values, for example, you want to have. So right here, I wish to have a set of values. So they are basically declared as following, right? Like for example, I have right here type, and along with type I have the S letters. So S letters is basically the name of your identifier, and the set of characters is basically to be known as either like your values, right? Like for example, value 1, value 2, value 3. So first of all, you need to declare it. You need to declare that what is your type, and then you need to declare that if what is the data type it has. So for example, I have declared here vowel. So what is the set of character right here? It is A, E, I, O, U, and it is declared within your S letters. So how you are going to declare it? First of all, type S letter is equals to set of characters, naming the type and assigning the set of characters. Then you are going to declare a vowel and A, E, I, O, U, and you are going to start it. This is one of the example, right? Like for example, you can also see this example, type sizes. Set of a string. Set of a string is going to be stored into your sizes. So you can declare that by declaring sweater sizes, and you can write all of these. So I hope that you can basically create a set of your own as well, and that's what I assume you do it right now. So you can just complete that and submit to me. Other than that, I have another area that we need to discuss is your class data type. So class data types is what I'm going to discuss with you in chapter number 20 of programming. So if it's a class data types is basically a composite data type that includes variable of given data types and methods. So I'm not going to get into the depth of classes right now because we are going to discuss that later into chapter number 20. But just I want to give an idea that what are classes. So basically classes is an composite data type. It includes variable of given data types and methods. What is a class? A class is like when you are creating an object that is an instance of the class. Or for example, you can say that an object is defined from a class. So several objects can be defined from the same class as well. So wait, let me give you an example. So for example, you can see that a car might have attributes like make, model, and year. So when you are creating the object is your car. But at the same time, you need to have your attribute as well. So this is what this is to be known as an class. A class is basically an example of creating variables, right? Like a class is a car is a variable, and along with that, its types and methods are different. So if you want to understand it more, you can think of it planning a road trip, because planning a road trip is like you are creating a class. You are creating a class, and actually going on the trip is like creating an object based on that plan. So I will also be sharing with you that what do it means by a class and attribute and method, but we are not going to cover much of the depth. I just want to explain you, right? Like for example, if you are planning a road trip, when you plan a road trip, what you usually do is that you create detailed itineraries or the blueprint that how you want the trip to go. This includes, right, like for example, you add your routes, you add your activities, you add your stops, right? So in programming, this is similar what you do when you create a class. A class is basically a template. A class is basically a blueprint that tells your attributes and methods that what your object have to do, right? Like for example, your object is car, and if you want to define the structure and behavior of the car, you are going to use class. So when you are actually going on a road trip, you are basically following the plan that you created. So the trip you take based on that plan is basically the instance of the road trip, and programming is like creating an object. So what is an object? An object is an instance of a class. So if it is not clear to you, I will be attaching a document of class specifically so that you can go through that and you can carry on onto my lecture right again. So this is going to be, I think, your fourth task for this class. The other three was the ones that we have earlier did that. So that's all for it. Now I'm just going to give you a recap of why do you think that user-defined data types are necessary. They are necessary because they allows you to model real-world entities more effectively. You can create your own data type. They are used for reusability. For example, you can once they are created, they can be used across the program. They can be helpful in organizing complex data structures and improving their code reliability as well. So this is basically a question of your exam. That's why I'm again and again looking into that why are user-defined necessary? When an object-oriented programming is not being used by a programmer, it may choose a user-defined data type. For reasonably large problems, it is likely that they want to make their program more understandable and less error prone. So once the programmer has decided because of this advantage, they use their own data type that is not the one of the built-in data types, but the user the defined ones. So you can create it on your own. If you have a question, you can either reply to this, you can even reply to this. So basically, why do you think that it's better to create your own data types other than using existing ones? You can even reply me to this into your comment box. And for even understanding you, for better understanding, I have some practical examples right here. The first example here states that a simple student record system. So what it is doing is that it is showing a student record can be used to store information for multiple students. So this is a record. What is example number two? Example number two is that a unique collection of ID. Now, this is a collection of ID. This can demonstrate that how a set can be used to keep a track of unique ID. The third example is a class of a bank accounts. So a class basically can be used to manage different accounts with methods for depositing money and withdrawing monies, either in terms of ATM, in terms of check. So when you have multiple areas, you use a class, right? And when you have less than these areas, you basically use a set or you use a record. So if I summarize all of this, user-defined data types are the types that gives us the flexibility to create data structure that fit our programming needs. And understanding them is the key to become a skilled programmer. So I hope that today's class is clear to you and we have covered completely all of this, that what do you understand why user defined types are necessary, what are non-composite data type, what are composite data type, what is enumerated pointer, what is sets, records, classes, objects, and how you can design an appropriate user defined for a given problem. So if you have any queries, please feel free to ask. Thank you so much. I'll see you next class. Take care.